Hey guys, how's it going? It's Baggins here, and today we're going to be talking about how to heal Mutated Expeditions. So if you guys are fresh level 60s, or you've been level 60 for a while, and you've been struggling or curious about how to heal the Lazarus Instrumentality when it's mutated, or Garden of Genesis, or Dynasty Shipyard, today I'm going to be talking about my different builds and also showing you guys my gear and why we've chosen what we've chosen. First thing though, before this video begins, I want to let you guys know that we have transferred previously. Our server that we were on was called Rockabera. It's this one here, and as you can see, it's just an absolute hive of activity. But lately we have transferred to the very mighty and powerful Barri. Now, as you can see, it is pretty damn populated. It's getting close to 2,000 players already, and it's not even 1 p.m. here in England. So if you guys would like to be on a server that looks like this, if you'd like to have a lot of activity, I'm going to be hosting events, 3v3s, maybe fashion shows, a bunch of other fun stuff. If you want to come join us, transfer over to Barri. There's probably not a lot of time left to do it before it locks, so yeah, just give you guys a little bit of a heads up on that. That's Barri on the EU servers. Come on over to Barri, we'll have a lot of fun. Okay, so healing Mutated Expeditions. First of all, I'm going to show you guys my gear. Now, it is important to mention that in order to do the highest tier mutations, in order to do difficulty 10, you need gear score. There is no ifs or buts about it. If you want to do difficulty 10 of Lazarus or Genesis or Dynasty, one thing that you're going to find and one thing that is going to hard limit you is your gear score. Because you can see, if we go in here, if we want to do difficulty 10 of Lazarus Instrumentality, its recommended gear score is 625. If you are more than 3 points out of this recommended, it's going to become really, really, really difficult. So all I would say is, first and foremost, pick a set of gear and stick with it. So you need to pick one set of gear that is going to universally be good across all 3 expeditions. Now, luckily, the perks don't actually matter that much. I know people are like, you need Ancient Ward, you need Corrupted Ward, you need Angry Earth Ward. It is simply just not possible to get that amount of Umbral Shards to be able to upgrade that many pieces of gear within like the first month or 2 of the game. Because, you know, you can only get 6,000 Umbral Shards if you gold a difficulty 10. And in order to do that, you need the gear in the first place. So I chose a set of gear that is kind of appropriate for everything. Honestly, if you guys are starting off fresh, I just recommend picking up a full set of Voidbent armor. One thing to factor in when it comes to upgrading your gear is it's much more expensive to take a, let's see, for example, this 599 Void Gauntlet here. If I want to go ahead and upgrade this to 600, it costs me 125 Umbral Shards. Whereas if I wanted to take this 600 Void Gauntlet here and bump it up by 1 level, it would cost me 1 Umbral Shard. So you can see there's quite a bit of a difference. By the time we get to that 125 that we spent getting that 1 level, we could have done like 11 or 12 gear score levels with this legendary. So it's much better to start off with a legendary baseline if you can get 600 gear score armor and upgrade that, rather than trying to upgrade your 599s or your 598s. You're going to make your Umbral Shards stretch so much further, which is going to allow you to get into the higher difficulties much easier. Now, going on to my particular gear, in that same sort of vein, I just took whatever legendary armor I had available, whatever I could craft that like kind of had roughly good perks. So a lot of this stuff is pretty suboptimal. We got reinforced mining look on this chest piece. That's not going to do anything in our expeditions unless you want to like mine those blight crags that sometimes pop up around Genesis or whatever. But yeah, refreshing evasion is a good perk here. Resilient is actually not viable in PVE, and I've only recently learned this somehow, but yeah, you don't actually get hit with crits in PVE as far as I'm aware. So 2 of the 3 perks on this are actually pretty dead, and at some point I will take all of these Umbrals that we've got and upgrade a better set of gear. But just to give you a rough idea of like how unoptimal your gear needs to be, it's okay, you can get away just as long as you have the perks. So Mending Protection, Arbor Protection is something we use in every expedition. We'll talk about that in a little bit. On this one we got Refreshing Evasion, so every time we dodge, and you are going to be dodging a lot because the enemies are going to be trying to attack you a lot, every time we dodge we lower our cooldowns. We got Refreshing Evasion on the gloves as well, and Putrefying Scream. This sometimes comes in handy if you can put Scream on your Void Gauntlet. You can nerf the enemies that have Vampiric on them, because some of them actually lifesteal quite a lot. On the legs we got Revitalizing Beacon and Ancient Ward. Ancient Ward obviously going to be useful in Lazarus, but pointless in the other 2. Revitalizing Beacon, I actually don't really use Beacon anymore in Mutated Expeditions, and again, we'll talk about the abilities in a little bit. So basically, these are just here for the stats and for the gear score. And then finally, on my boots, we've got Fortifying Sacred Ground, and again, that Ancient Ward is popping up, but that really doesn't need to be there. The ideal for these 2 would be for Refreshing or Refreshing Evasion and one of those perks, and literally just anything else. Like, just refreshing and the healing perk is what you need. So Fortifying Sacred Ground and Mending Protection are the two that we look to go for. If I could, I would probably take Accelerating Light's Embrace on one of these, or I would take the Energizing Splash of Light to give everybody stamina back when we use Splash of Light. But again, we're going to go into the abilities in a little bit. I've got a shield on my back just cosmetically, so we can ignore that. Earring-wise, amulet-wise, this is an okay amulet, actually. It's not ideal. I would rather have Divine instead of Stamina Recovery, but having an extra little bit of stamina pop up every now and again if you're getting chased down by a lot of enemies, that extra dodge can sometimes save your life. Also, Thrust Protection, whilst I initially wasn't very excited about it, comes in very handy if you pull aggro of archers or any rangers. A lot of them do thrust damage, so this can save you a lot. And health is just a must on your amulet, so always get health. On your ring, you obviously want to have Sacred, and I would recommend Hearty. One thing that we didn't cover, but you guys will see as you're looking at the video, is all of my armor is heavy. Heavy armor is what I would recommend you go for, because if you do pull aggro, light armor is just, you're dead straight away. If one of the archers hit you, it's GG's. Medium armor you could feasibly go for, but I'd recommend to go for heavy, and then you can get the extra dodge from the Hearty on the ring as well. Getting a Sacred Hearty ring is going to be pretty expensive, but it is worth the investment if you use either light armor for Outpost Rush or heavy armor for expeditions like I do. And then the leeching is there. It's not really needed. This would probably be better as refreshing, but leeching, you know, a little bit of extra lifesteal comes in handy as well. On the earring, this is a very juicy earring. I'm really happy about this. This is probably like best in slot for me. Refreshing toast, so we can use potions more often, because you are going to be knocking back a lot of potions in Mutated Expeditions. Refreshing, just all around good for every class, but especially for healers. And then healthy toast, when I drink a mana potion, and you're going to be doing that very often, you can get health back as well, which is huge. And then looking at the Void Gauntlet and Life Staff, the Void Gauntlet is a little bit suboptimal. Nullifying Oblivion actually is pretty handy, especially if you're doing Genesis. You're going to find the Angry Earth guys with the big maces, I believe they're called soldiers, they apply a Fortify to themselves, and you can remove it with Nullifying Oblivion, which is going to be pretty awesome. And then we've got good old Will of the Ancients. It's just like the best life staff out there. You should farm Lazarus a few times until you can get it to drop. I actually upgraded this Will of the Ancients from 598 to 600 because I just wanted it so much, but just do Lazarus a few times at normal and one of these bad boys should drop for you these days. One quick thing which I forgot to mention is the gems in my armor as well. So we run mostly diamonds and everything, as you can see, diamond, 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 diamond. We have one malachite here as well. The difference between malachite and diamonds is malachite gives you elemental damage absorption with a little bit of physical, and diamonds give you mostly physical with a little bit of elemental. That you do need a bit of both, because you are going to occasionally probably take aggro from the tank, because healing just generates a lot of aggro, and then the mobs are going to be focused on you. You'll get hit by an archer occasionally, or a stray little one of those crawler dudes, and they will hit you for a lot of physical damage. So diamonds still pretty important. I think this idea that you go all rubies or all of the amethyst void gems is just a little bit too crazy. You're not really going to be taking that much of the mutated damage. It is still going to be the mob damage that will mainly kill you. But for me, I swap out on my helmet and my legs these amethyst gems for ruby gems, depending on whether it's a fire or a void week. However, if you did want to be economical and save a little bit of money, you could just put opals in 2 pieces of gear, and that covers both. That's all elemental damage, as opposed to swapping between the two. One thing as well, I'm not sure if it's bugged or not, but the void damage absorption, it's 6% with the amethyst for some reason, whereas with the ruby it's only 3.8. So yeah, extra value that you can get out of slotting a couple of amethysts if you do have a void week. And then on the weapons, we just choose to run diamonds because they give you extra outgoing healing, provided you keep yourself at full health. And there's no other gems that really make sense in the weapons. You could put an amber gem in your void gauntlet, but just extra healing. You're a healer, so that's what you want to do. So that is the gems. All right, so that's a quick look at the gear. The main takeaways are that you need to get healing perks on your armor. If you can, get refreshing, get health on your amulet, get hearty and sacred on your ring, and honestly, don't get too worried about anything else. If you can get 600 gear scar armor like void bent, just go for it. It's going to get you started on your mutated expedition journey so much faster. Right, next thing to talk about is the abilities. Now, my life staff abilities actually change depending on which mutations we have. I've had a little bit of experience now running through both the fire week and also the void week. For us on this server, it is a void week, so we have eternal and censored. With eternal and censored, I actually find it better to run a different build. So let's talk about this build with Hellfire. So if you guys have Hellfire on your server, I would recommend that you actually run this build. This is better for fire damage because the fire dot that gets put on people is actually pretty damn nasty, but you can remove it with Purify from Splash of Light. Orb of Protection, I'm using in all my mutated expeditions right now. This is mainly because it provides the Fortify, so everybody takes less damage. people are going to be taking a lot of damage in Mutated Expeditions, so you can kind of save yourself a little bit of upfront healing by preventing them from taking damage in the first place. And then another huge reason why we run Orb of Protection is for this Mending Protection perk. It increases our healing power by 24% for 3 seconds if the orb heals somebody who has less than 50% health. So a 24% increase on all of our heals is actually pretty huge. It's basically like getting another Bend Light or another Protector's Strength for free, just whenever you cast Orb of Protection on somebody who's low. So yeah, really good value out of that one, and I find it very hard to replace it with Beacon these days, even though Beacon is a great heal. Orb just giving that Fortify and then giving the increase in healing provides actually more than Beacon can these days. Sacred Ground is just something you're going to run all the time. You basically put this on the tank whenever you can, but if you do have a big group of melee boys, especially if it's a fire week, you can put the Sacred Ground inside the fire, and it actually kind of negates the damage it does. One thing that you do have to be aware about standing in the fire, if the enemy has Vampiric, they are going to heal up a lot. So from Indomitable, Vampiric says enemies heal a percentage of damage done, and that includes the fire damage as well. So yeah, Sacred Ground, Splash of Light, and Orb of Protection are what we run for fire weeks, because I basically, if you can, you get a bunch of people using great axes or hatchets, they stack on the enemy, and you just pop the Sacred Ground and Orb of Protection on them, and then you just keep Splash of Light on cooldown to remove all the debuffs from them. With the Void Gauntlet, this is a build that I use for all Mutated Expeditions. I don't think you need to change anything about this, regardless of whether it's Void or if it is Hellfire. One thing that I will mention, if you really do want to min-max, you can change the Essence Rupture over to Void Blade when you're fighting Scylla and when you're fighting Chardis. So the two bosses within Lazarus here. It's a bit spooky to do it on Scylla, but you can actually get quite a bit of extra damage out because she takes bonus damage from Void. Even though there is a Void damage resistance, I still find that it's pretty damn good, because if you hit them with the Void Blade in the back, you can lower the cooldowns like a lot. But if you're not feeling too confident, I would just use the Void Blade on Chardis, the big final boss, because it's basically just a free fight there. It might get a little bit tougher in the next patch, but you can really help speed up your team's damage by just using Void Blade, which is going to lower all your cooldowns because you crit all the time with it, and then you can pop Oblivion, and you can basically keep Oblivion always down and give everybody a 20% damage buff permanently. Other things to mention with the Void Gauntlet is I use Orb of Decay and I use Essence Rupture. Essence Rupture is a little bit of extra healing. You just pop it on the enemy that you're actively attacking, especially in boss fights. It's a good chunk of extra healing. Also gives everybody a bunch of stamina, and it applies a fairly decent heal when it expires as well. And then Orb of Decay also with some more healing and a little bit of mana regen as well. If you can, you try and pop the orb when it comes back like that, and that's actually a pretty big heal as well, which is going to be modified by the Blessed that you hopefully have on your Void Gauntlet. The last thing that I haven't actually mentioned yet is my stats. So we opt to go for 150 Constitution minimum. Now, one thing that I recommend you do at higher tier mutations, if you're not already doing so, is eating food. We have the choice here. We could eat some Constitution food, or we could eat some Focus food. I generally tend to go for Focus food, so I can just do the bigger heals again. But also, if you're feeling a little bit more squishy, you're feeling like you're dying too often, or you're getting aggro too often, you could eat some Constitution food and try and get to that 200 con mark, which is going to give you a big increase in armor, which subsequently is then going to give you an even bigger health pool and just make you very tanky and very survivable. So that is a quick run through my build, guys. I didn't want to make this video too long. If you guys think there's anything that I've missed that's important, let me know in the comments down below. And if you would like to see some actual Mutated Expedition runs with these builds, I'll put links to those in the description down below or up in the top right as well, so you can see some actual gameplay of me healing. All right, hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, make sure you go ahead and click the like button, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys all in the next one.